Yesterday we discussed how this contemplation of pleasure arises by not practicing and looking or seeing or knowing with the practice of Satipatthana. All these Namarupa Sankharas, the conditioned mind body, the Upadaniya, objects of clinging, one is pulled away by this Tanaditi, craving and views, thinking that all these objects are pleasurable. One will be led to craving and clinging. Then the triple round, such as the Kilesa Vata, the round of defilements, leading to the round of actions, Kama Vata, leading to the round of results, Vipaka Vata. And this gives rise to a heap of suffering. So it is said that in a maxim that this arising of this cause-effect process is Vata, the round, leading to suffering, unpleasantness as a result of this cause-effect process. If one is not aware for one time, one moment, then this round will rotate for one moment. And if one practices the Satipatthana, practices mindfulness, connecting with whatever arises, with the exertion of energy and precision, concentrating the mind, one will see the nature of the realities, beginning with the discernment of mind and body, the conditionality, and the universal characteristics, especially when one becomes aware of the three characteristics of phenomenal existence, such as impermanence and so on. One will not see mind-body objects as pleasurable. Instead, one will see them as miserable. So, in this way, one sees the flaws, the defects. When one doesn't see in this way, one thinks that they are pleasurable, they are desirable, then one craves for these objects, leading to clinging and grasping. When once one sees the flaws, then one comes to know the realities, the truth, and then there will be no craving or clinging. As I said previously, unknowing causes attachment. Knowing causes detachment. Detachment means that there will be no tanha, no attachment. So, in this way, for that moment, the cause-effect process is said to have stopped, comes a cessation of this mind-body process momentarily. In this way, the Vata means the continuous round, and non-Vata is the cessation of the round, cutting the round, with the practice of Satipatthana. So the maxim is this process of cause-effect leads to the triple round, namely the three Vata, three rounds, namely the round of defilement, action and results. In this way the triple round rotates. And avijja tanha upadana constitute the defilement, round of defilement. As a result of this round of defilement, actions are performed. The round of actions, kamma. When one performs these karmic deeds, then the results are bound to arise. Namely, the aggregates, mind-body aggregates, vipaka vata, the round of results. Because of various actions, a variety of actions, one is led to the round of results in terms of the initial result, that is jadi, rebirth, followed by the continuing results, such as jara, marana, aging, sickness, death, and all sorts of suffering. Although one does not wish them to happen, they are bound to happen. And if you just think about it, there is nothing pleasurable. They are a heap of suffering. It is quite obvious when one really looks at it. Now the yogis are practicing the Vipassana. One sees the defects of the mind-body. If one does not practice, that is, not practicing the noble path of eight constituents, this also is part of this maxim. Vata, the round, the triple round is bound to rotate continuously forever. Triple round made up of Kama, Kilesa Vata, Kama Vata, and Vipaka Vata. This triple round will rotate like a fan above you. The fan may have different speeds, but this will rotate with full speed. And the corollary to this is, with the practice of the noble path of eight constituents, the vata, the round, the triple round will be cut off by not being given a chance to arise. So momentary knowledge of this round leads to momentary cutting off of the round. If you calculate for 1 minute, if you note and know in 1 minute, you will cut off this round for 1 minute 60 times, which is at the rate of 1 second per round. And when 5 minutes, 300, and 1 hour, 3,600 moments or rounds will be cut off. Now in the course of the practice, as for the yogis, they are practicing to cut off this triple round. And with the practice, they are cutting off this round every moment of their mindfulness. So thinking about it, one should rejoice over it. That nobody else is a doer, you are the only doer. Whatever existence you are born in, it is the result of your own actions. If you do good things, you're going to get good results. If you do bad things, you're going to get bad results. If you have done, said, or thought are wrong, you are bound to be reborn in the states of loss. And nobody does it. It is you are responsible for it. And if you have done, said, or thought a good thing, then you will be reborn in good destinies. So that because your physical, verbal, mental behaviors are pure and blameless, they become graceful and affable. So that the result is rebirth in the human planes, deva, or higher up if you practice jhana in the Brahma planes, fine immaterial planes. So because of these good and bad deeds, they are karma, actions performed. Because of these actions, you are bound to suffer the results of these actions. So whatever action you do, this action decides your fate, good or bad. So this existence is the result of your karma or karmic actions. If karmic actions are the result of kilesas, defilements, if there's no karma, there will be no existence. So because of these kilesas, defilements, the karmas, actions are performed. And because of the actions, because of these defilements, namely avijjana, upadana, not knowing the truth, knowing in the wrong way, that makes up avijja, ignorance, and the craving and clinging, these three things constitute kilesa vata. Because of these kilesa vata defilements, actions are performed, and because of the actions, you have the results in the form of existence. So out of these the constituents of kilesa vata, avijja, tanha, upadana. The first one, namely avijja, is in the main. It is said that, also said that this kilesa vata, which is made up of avijja, tanha, upadana, can be cut off with the noble path of 8 constituents, which is consisted of 3 groups: sila making up the morality path, samadhi making up the concentration path, and panya making up the wisdom path. As we have already explained many times, the sila making up, the morality path, is made up of right action, right speech, and right livelihood. And if one is fulfilled with these right things, then one will become free from this transgressive forms of defilements, vitakama kilesas, so that this the round of transgressive defilement will be cut off. Vitakama kamavata, which is made up of the gross forms of avijja, tanha, upadana, will be cut off, leading to the purity of physical and verbal behaviors, by drying up the gross forms of kilesas. This is basically good. Furthermore, if one practices the 3 groups, namely Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, Samavayama, the right energy, the path of right energy, Samavayama, making up, the path of right mindfulness, Samasati, making up, and the path of right concentration, Samadhi, making up. In short, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, which make up the concentration group or concentration path, Samadhi Khanda, Samadhi making up. By this, with the practice of these 3 wholesome mental states, you are able to overcome the obsessive forms of defilements or medium forms of avijja, tanha, upadana, kilesa vata, pariyutthana kilesas. You are said to have dried up this obsessive medium form of kilesa vata. In this way, your mind becomes pure and uplifted. And initially, your mind is concurrent with the object because you focus properly, so that automatically this path of right aim, samasangapa maganga, is all said to be cultivated. As much as one can cultivate the samasangapa maganga, the path of right aim, you are bound to see things in the true nature. Seeing the truth is cultivating this maganga path or group, samadhi, samadhi maganga, the path of right view or right understanding. So these 2 things, samasangapa maganga and samadhi maganga, make up the wisdom group, panya khanda, or wisdom path, panya maganga, by which one is able to cut off the latent tendencies of this kilesa vata, the latent tendencies of avijja, tanha, upadana, so as not to leave any trace of it. You are said to have dried up. So you are much, much purer as a result of this. So it will be more satisfying. So in this way, with the practice of these 3 trainings, sila, samadhi, panya, you are able to cut off the round of defilements, kilesa vata, which is made up of the gross, medium, and refined forms of avijja, tanha, upadana. So at one practice of these 3 trainings, you are able to cut off 1 moment. For 2 moments, two rounds will be cut off. In this way, it is said that with the practice of the noble path of 8 constituents, you are able to cut off this triple round. And once you cut off this round of defilement, kilesa vata, the other 2 rounds will be automatically cut off. You don't have to purposely go to cut off the other 2 rounds. So if you think about it, you will find that it is very satisfying. So the maxim says that with the cutting off of kilesa vada, no kama vada will continue, nor will there be vipaka vada. Because there is no defilement, round of defilement, the good and bad deeds will not be performed. If the good and bad deeds are not performed, no coming action, there will be no results. Automatically this result, round of result, will be cut off by not being given a chance to arise. So the main thing is this kilesa vada, the round of defilements. Once you cut off this round. By just cutting off this round, the other two rounds will be cut off. So with one thing, you can accomplish three things. One plug, one punch. So if the corollary is, as a corollary, if you don't practice Satipatthana, that means if you don't practice the Eightfold Path, then the kilesa vada will not be cut off, and with the result, the kama vada will continue, and so will be vipaka vada results. If you are not mindful, you will not know, you will not be aware, not knowing the truth, knowing in the wrong way, avijja. As I said, if unknowing causes attachment, falling victim to the temptations of desire, leading to the round of the three rounds, or the other rounds, kama vada and vipaka vada. If you note, then you will know the truth, then you will cut off the triple round. If you are not mindful, then this round is bound to continue to rotate. So the question is, which kind of person can cut off this round of, in which person will this round rotate, and in which person will this round be cut off? That is the question. So this round, triple round, will rotate for those people who sees pleasure in mind-body objects. That is the contemplation of pleasure, asada, vipassi. The one who sees pleasure in these mind or body objects. And the round will be cut off in those who sees misery in his mind body objects, adinava nupassi. That is the person who contemplates misery in mind body objects. So if one is not mindful of every arising in the body, then one will be enjoying these pleasures of senses, not seeing the truth. By not seeing the truth, one thinks that they are pleasurable, they are good, and will crave for these things. Then the kama kilesa vada is set to start rotating. Kilesa vada starts to rotate for such a person who sees pleasure in objects. Because one is not mindful with the practice of Satipatthana in respect of the mind-body, which are subject to clinging, which are subject to hold on to clinging and views. Then, because thinking that they are pleasurable in all these four postures, living casually, not being mindful, and for such people, the round will not be cut off. It will rotate forever. Now, in which person or in which persons will such a round be cut off? It will be cut off in those who practice, who sees flaws, defects, misery in mind, body, objects with the practice of Satipatthana. Especially seeing the universal characteristics such as nature, dukkha, anatta, then seeing the flaws, seeing that they are unacceptable, disgusting, despicable, then with the mindfulness, the round will be cut off. Without mindfulness, the round will continue to rotate. So in short, not practicing Satipatthana, the round will continue. With the practice of Satipatthana, the round will be cut off. The noble path of eight constituents, the three vata, the triple round, will be cut off. Now, this noble path of eight constituents, this formula, is effective in cutting off the three rounds. And where does it come from? It comes from the fourfold mindfulness, fourfold foundations of mindfulness, Satipatthana. If one is fulfilled with this practice of Satipatthana, then one need not practice purposely this formula, noble path of eight constituents. One is said to be automatically fulfilled with this path, noble path of eight constituents. The four foundations of mindfulness, Satipatthana, noting every arising in the body, material objects in the body, with the practice of Kaya Vipassana Satipatthana, mindfulness occupied with the body, noting all sensations or feelings arising in the body, with the practice of Vedana Vipassana Satipatthana, the mindfulness of feelings, and noting every ideas, thoughts arising in the mind, with the practice of Chitta Vipassana Satipatthana, the mindfulness of the mind, and noting all general activities or objects, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and so on, with the practice of Dhamma Vipassana Satipatthana, mindfulness of Dhamma objects. By being able, in short, noting every immediately arising object in the body, that is in brief, then one is said to be practicing Satipatthana, immediately arising, noting immediately arising object continuously, without break. Then, whenever this Satipatthana is practiced, then the round will be cut off. One is said to be practicing noble path of eight constituents. The Arada, it is said the Arada or Paripurna, the sustained energy or fulfilled energy. One will become fulfilled, one will be able to sustain energy only when one exerts the practice. Without it, one will not become fulfilled. So now the yogis, as for the yogis, prior to the practice, they are not fulfilled with this Satipatthana practice. Now with faith and enthusiasm, noting every arising object, such as catching or deeply connecting the material objects arising in the body, with the practice of Kaya Vipassana Satipatthana, noting every sensation or feeling, with the practice of Vedana Vipassana Satipatthana, and at times they have thoughts and ideas, they note them with the practice of Chitta Vipassana Satipatthana, and the general activities such as seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and also the liking, disliking, ill will, doubt, sloth and torpor, restlessness, and things like that, with the practice of Dhamma Vipassana Satipatthana. That is because they are contemplating, repeatedly activating mindfulness, practicing Satipatthana. They are said to be fulfilled with these four kinds of Satipatthana. Hence it is said that Ariya Mego Samadhuka Kaya Kami. So this is Ariya Mego is made up of the three trainings, Sila Samadhi Piññā. As for the monks and ladies, they have their own precepts, training precepts to sustain. And so long as they are able to practice without breaking them, they are said to be purifying the physical and verbal behaviors. So they are also being able to cultivate the Chirana Mekkanga and Viridhi Mekkanga so that they are pure by body and speech. In this way they are Ariya, pure, and if one is pure, one is noble. So also with the application, exertion of energy to note, not to miss the immediately arising object, they are not accepting the obsessive forms of defilements in the mind. By not accepting, they are said to be overcome. And with the exertion of energy, they are able to connect with the objects, giving rise to Samasati, making up the path of right mindfulness, so that the mind is protected from kilesas by mindfulness. As I said, mindfulness guards the mind. That's one of the qualities of sati. And with activated mindfulness, one is concentrated. Here it is Kanika Samadhi, momentary concentration. This is the practice of Samadhi, making up the path of right concentration. The mind falls calm and collected on the objects noted. In this way there is no distraction of the mind, no restlessness of the mind, no remorse and restlessness. So with the practice of this concentration group, Variyasati Samadhi, one is free from this obsessive defilements, pariyutana kilesas. So the mind becomes pure and affable. And Ariya, because it's pure, Parisoda, pure. If it's pure, then Uttama, noble. So, and also initially, when one is noting the object, the noting mind is concurrent with the object, and because of the precise aiming, in this way one is being purified of latent tendencies of defilements. In this way one is much purer and much nobler. So in this way, one is said to be Hariya, pure and noble. And another qualification to this is Dukkakaya Gami, leading to the end of suffering by way of the triple round, which is made up of the 3 rounds, round of defilement, round of actions and round of results. They come to the end, or they cease to exist, or one is led, or this practice leads to the cessation or end of a round of suffering. So it is obvious that one is able to overcome the 3 forms of defilements, namely the gross, medium and refined, with the practice of the noble way constituents, which in effect is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But if one practices one kind of mindfulness, one satipatthana, one can accomplish the other satipatthanas also. One can accomplish them automatically. If one analyzes in terms of 4 noble truths, made up of the 4 truths. First of all, we have this dukkha satya, the truth of suffering. The Buddha says that this must be fully understood. So, if one sees the truth of this suffering, fully understand this, then there's bound to be this faith and enthusiasm. One will become encouraged, inspired with the practice. Now, we have these 4 objects, which are the objects to be noted, 4 targets, 4 objects of noting, namely kaya, vedana, citta, dhamma, the object of the body, feeling, the mind, mental objects such as ideas and thoughts, and Dhamma object, such as seeing, hearing, and so on. So in terms of these Four Noble Truths, we call these objects, four kinds of objects which arise in the body, dukkha, satya, the truth of suffering. Because everything which arises in the body is the truth of suffering, dukkha, satya. In fact, the whole body is dukkha, satya, the whole body is the truth of suffering. They are conditioned objects arising through the six sense doors, such as the material objects in the body, the feelings or sensations, the thoughts and ideas, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and all that. All these things are conditioned mind-body objects. They are all the truth of suffering, dukkha, satya. So this dukkha, satya, the truth of suffering, is to be fully understood. This can only be fully understood. Fully understood means known discriminatingly, known in a very distinct manner, separately, and so on. That is what is meant by fully understood, or fully understanding. So one can fully understand this dukkha, satya, the truth of suffering, only with the practice of mindfulness, not without, not otherwise. Knowing this, then with the practice, one can see mind and body separately, the cause and the effect, this is the cause, this is the effect, distinctly, and then the impermanent nature of these objects distinctly, fully, and then that they are subject to unsatisfactoriness, they are painful, suffering, unacceptable, and they arise at their will, on their own, ungovernable, uncontrollable. So in this way one understands them fully, distinctly. That is what is meant by fully understanding this dukkha, satya. Seeing the whole range or the variety of characteristics, that is what is meant by fully understanding. So when one notes dukkha, satya, one is bound to see them fully or distinctly. Only when you note, you will know. If you don't note, you will not know. So this dukkha, satya, which is to be fully understood, by noting this, by understanding this, one will come to see the defects or flaws of this truth of suffering, that they are not pleasurable. So in this way one is said to be overcoming or abandoning or warding off the samudaya satya, the truth of the origin of suffering. Only when there is the attachment, one will crave for these objects. If there is no attachment, there will be no craving for these objects. So in this way, one sees the craving, attachment is the cause. Hence, by noting this dukkha, satya, fully understanding it, one is said to be automatically overcoming or ridding or warding off this attachment. That is, samudaya satya, the truth of the origin, is said to be abandoned. So with one noting, one can abandon one time, one moment. So only when you note properly, effectively, and know these objects, and through nature of the objects, will there be no attachment. You'll be free from attachment, because you note, you are mindful and fully aware of the objects noted. So you'll be free of attachment. There will be no attachment. Also, this avidya, ignorance, not knowing the truth, knowing in a wrong way, will not have a chance to arise in your stream of consciousness, and by this it is also said to be extinguished, come to cessation. That is, temporary cessation. Cessation at that very moment, at the moment of noting. This is Titanga Nirodha, momentary cessation or extinction. This avijja can arise if you are not mindful. Now because you are mindful and fully aware, this ignorance will not have a chance to arise, and by not being given a chance to arise, this avijja is said to be overcome, said to come to cessation or have extinguished the... and this come to cessation of the three vadas as well. Not only this avijja, but also the three vadas, the triple round. The triple round ceases to exist, come to cessation. Also this is Tatanga Nirodha, temporary cessation or extinction of the triple round, not only avijja and tanha. So automatically they cease to exist. So when one analyzes the noting mind, one can find out that with one moment of mindfulness, the three paths, the three trainings are involved, namely sila making up, the overcoming the gross forms of impurities or negative emotions, and the samadhi making up, the concentration group, overcoming the medium form of impurities, and then pinya making up, the wisdom group, the wisdom path, which overcomes the refined forms of defilements. So they are said to be automatically cultivated. Hence it is said in respect of the Four Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths are to be fully understood, abandoned, and realized and developed. Fully understanding the Dukkha Satya, abandoning the Samudaya Satya, and realizing the Nirodha Satya, and developing or cultivating the Mega Satya, the path of the truth of the path. Fully understanding the truth of the suffering, abandoning the truth of the origin, realizing the truth of cessation, and developing the truth of the path. So this way, with the practice of objects of the body, sensation, ideas and thoughts, and general objects, you are fully understanding the truth of suffering, dukkha satya. The truth of suffering is fully understood by noting these objects, two kinds of objects on the shelf. Every object arises in the body. Note whatever arises in the body, whatever is present, then you can accomplish this dukkha satya, the truth of fully understanding the truth of suffering, dukkha satya. As simple as that. Now, seeing or noting, being understanding fully this suffering or truth of suffering, dukkha satya, one accomplishes the abandoning or warding off of the samudaya satya, the truth of the origin of suffering, the realizing the truth of the cessation or extinction, nirodha satya, and cultivating or developing the truth of the path, the mega satya. They are said to be automatically accomplished by just fully understanding dukkha satya. That is said, that's why they said that by fully understanding one truth, you accomplish the other truths automatically, or you understand the remaining truths automatically. In this way, the Four Noble Truths are understood at the same time. So, you have abandoned or warded off the things which are to be abandoned, which are overcome, namely avijja, tanha upadana, beginning with avijja, the kilesa vada is said to have come to cessation or extinction. And then If you analyze your noting mind is made up of the practice of the Noble Path of 8 constituents. In this way, you are practicing the Vipassana as well as the Noble Path of 8 constituents and overcoming the Kilesa Vata at the same time. So how satisfying it is with the practice. So with one moment of mindfulness, you are accomplishing this 4 Noble Truths for one moment. That's why it is said that by just doing one thing, you are accomplishing 4 things at the same time. As we said, one pluck, one bunch, how effective it is. And in this these 3 paths, the path of morality, concentration and wisdom, which make up the Noble Path of 8 constituents. These are things to be developed. So you are developing things which need to be developed. And with the continued development, for instance, with the practice of sila making up, the morality path, developing it daily, moment by moment, you are said to be enhancing your power of restraint, power of control, controlling the physical and verbal behaviors. They are said to be automatically controlled. Besides this, you practice this concentration. Your mind is concentrated with the practice of the path of concentration, samadhi making up. If you are free from this obsessive defilements, in this way your mind is said to be controlled. You are practicing the restraint of the mind, so that the mind becomes more and more powerful, more and more developed. And as much as the noting mind is concurrent with the object, noted, seeing the true nature of these objects from the basics, through the stages of insight, you are said to have reached the stage of maturity. You have said to have ripened your knowledge. So with the sila making up, basically you are able to control your physical and verbal behaviors so that they become pure, gentle, cultivated and affable, quite satisfying in itself. And by concentrating the mind with the unification of the mind, samadhi making up, you are free from the bondage of these obsessive defilements, because your mind becomes pure and developed, so that there will be no craving, attachment about things which caused craving previously. Even if you encounter desirable, agreeable objects, pleasurable objects, there will be no desire rising, no attachment. Now you can overcome this attachment. Now with the noting mind being concurrent with the objects to be noted, seeing the true nature of these objects, you are free from these latent tendencies. You are much more able to control your mind, your behaviors. In this way, your mind becomes much more developed. This is bhavana, mind development practice. And what are the things that are causing this? It's none other than the atapa, ardent energy. Ardent energy is causing all these things. So that there will be no slackness, no exhaustion of energy, and no cooling down of the energy. You're just giving the heat to your practice in the form of this ardent energy, atapa. So with the practice of this 3 trainings, sila samadhi panya, which are to be developed, you gain momentum, your practice is enhanced, and previously you're very sensitive to objects of senses, pleasurable objects, and very easily you are pulled away by desirable objects, which are agreeable. You are said to be pulled down or pulled away by these objects, desirable or agreeable objects. Now you are free from this bondage of this craving or desire. Even if you encounter some agreeable objects which can cause craving, there will be no craving. Because you see things in the true nature, such as the characteristics of phenomenal existence, nature, dukkha, and so on. So in this way, you are free from this sense objects, attachment to sense objects. You are not being pulled by these desirable objects in terms of greed and craving and attachment. And as you are able to gain insight, your mind is said to have matured, to have developed. From tenderness, it becomes developed, so that you possess this power of repelling power, or repellent power, overstanding power. Excuse me. Previously, when you encounter these sense objects, you are overcome by craving, raga, or if the objects are not agreeable, aversion may arise. You are very sensitive. Now you are not sensitive anymore because you have developed your mind, so you have this you come to possess this power of withstanding. There will be no likes and dislikes, or dejection or elation about disagreeable or agreeable objects, because your mind has been developed. You have overcome the pull of raga or craving. Like the rockets, when they are fired into the sky, into the air, into the atmosphere, we know that, of course, we are not very sure about how many firing took place to put this rocket into the atmosphere out of the pull of the gravity. But there are so many rockets has to be fired in order to escape the gravity of the earth. So also you become you are fired in a way, so that you are free from this pull of these kilesas. How wonderful it is! So if you practice really effectively, you are bound to be free from this pull. This practicing atapi or atapa, ardent energy, to be free from the pull of gravity of kilesas. This is very important for the practicing yogis. The Buddha even has always mentioned this expression in the practice as atapi or atapa, not to be slack without any laxity. If you're just lying idle, not noting, not exerting energy, then you are bound to be invaded by these kilesas. You are said to be moist by these kilesas. When you are moist by these kilesas, moisture causes heaviness. You'll be weighted. That means you become heavy with the moist of kilesas. But when you apply heat gradually, as much as you apply heat, you will dry up this moisture. When the moisture is dried up, driven out, then things become lighter, not heavy. This atapi, atapa, or lona viriya energy is in 3 stages. The initial launching energy, normal energy, in order to initiate mindfulness of arising object. Pardon me. This is the normal application of ardent energy in the initial period. Then when you encounter difficult situations, pain and suffering in the body, you boost up, you step up this energy in order to overcome these difficult situations. Later, the progressive forms of energy in order to realize the goal. In this way, you apply heat to your practice every second of the practice of the time, not to miss mindfulness, and in this way you are bound to be able to cultivate mindfulness in a wonderful manner with the application of this heat. To be wakeful, be conscious, alert, and diligent. This is very important. With these three stages, you heat these energies, kilesas, to be free from the pull of kilesas from your stream of consciousness. And in this way, you are free from the pull of kilesas. And when it comes to this insight knowledge, when you're able to become awakened to insight, then you are slowly pulled away from this gravity, and so much more at the higher stages of insight knowledge, you'll be much freer and freer from the pull of this kilesas, like this space rocket being pulled away from Earth's gravity, so that it can go wherever it likes, to the moon or whatever. And this will be discussed again tomorrow, together with the discourse on the two extremes of indulgence and asceticism, and to strike the medium, the middle path of these two extremes. Sadhu. Sadhu. Sadhu.